All right, good morning. We're live on a soggy Monday morning in the South in Atlanta on the Falcons Podcast. We're going to bring in our Facebook groups here real quick, so hang tight with us just for a moment, YouTube, as we get going. Hope everybody had a great Mother's Day weekend, and 1 and 2. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast. It is a soggy Monday morning after a weekend of rain, and it hasn't stopped here in the South as that system just keeps spinning and dumping more and more water on us, Nick. It was a great weekend for baseball, 50s and raining. And we were out there trying to run 60s and hit exit velos and throw pitches at a perfect game showcase. But how are you doing, my friend?
50s and raining. That sounds like a Mariners game. Perfect. We have the retractable roof out here. But no, doing pretty well. Had a good Mother's Day weekend. Did some walking with the wife. We stopped at a coffee place and a bagel place that she wanted to go. She took like a 2-hour nap. The day before, she was like 4 hours at a spa. So she should be feeling relaxed. But Dad's tired. The little guy's popping more teeth, and he was inconsolable a few times yesterday. But, you know, that's life sometimes. It's hard being, you know, a 15-month-old, 16-month-old. So we're doing okay.
Yeah, well, good. You sound better for a change. We didn't start off with, I'm just tired. I'm not sick and tired. That was an old Bill Cosby. The worst beating I ever got in my life is my mom said, I'm just sick. And I said, and tired. So, well, we go live every Monday morning and Wednesday morning for that matter, because we like having the conversation with y'all, and we like to say hello to some folks who are here nice and early. Our dragster friend, John Harrell, says he's in the hospital in Indianapolis, but he has not yet said what happened. So that you're posting here, I hope you have movement in all your extremities, and hopefully you're just there because a relative was having a baby or something and you're there to visit. Hope you're doing well. Sorry they can be joyous places, but usually aren't, especially with your hobbies. So hope you're doing okay, John. Alan, good to see you already this morning. He says, good morning. Scott and Nick and Falcons Nation. That's you guys. And yes, it is a soggy Monday morning. I got out the canoe. I rode my kids up to the bus stop today. It just hasn't stopped since Friday, just off and on. And again, 50s in the middle of May. That's freaking cold around here, man. We're out and we got like flip-flops and t-shirts on. What this reminded me of was when I moved out to California. And y'all who have been experiencing this in the South, this is what LA is like in May. So you go from 85 and sunny in Atlanta out to sunny California. I froze my ass off the first month I was there. I had no idea. I'm out walking the dog in sandals and shorts and a t-shirt. I'm like, what the hell? Sunny California, my hiney. So it reminded me of that, except no rain. It didn't rain there.
If you start seeing the animals line up 2 by 2, then maybe get a little worried. But
the squirrel was out there. I think he was looking for somebody else. The deer all hunkered down in the woods behind us. So, but Alan, good to see you. Atlanta boy, good to see you as well. And he was just saying, it seems like the social teams for the Atlanta Falcons were kind of sleeping. He says, glad to get some Atlanta content all weekend. I was hoping the Falcons post some content of rookie minicamp, and they left us all hanging. They got the interviews out. But, frankly, and I know we're sharks for the chum, but they don't do anything. It's walkthroughs. It's glorified walkthroughs, a little bit of a workout, but there's not going to be any real competition there. There might be some for the tryout guys, but not for the rookies. And there are some tryout guys there. And Raheem Morris said that was talking about the UDFAs. He gave an interesting stat because with only 5 draft picks, it was very key that the Falcons hit on a couple of their UDFAs, and they're really high on Kobe Bryant. You can tell that. They brought Kobe Bryant. I didn't realize this, Nick. They brought him on one of their 30 visits. And kudos to Raheem Morris for not calling it a top 30 visit because that just confuses people. But one of their 30 official visits, they actually used on Kobe Bryant. So when it came time and he didn't get drafted, they had an in. I mean, they basically, he said, and he kind of joked about it. He's like, no, we've been recruiting him the whole time. No one else had a chance. So they're really high on Kobe Bryant. And I will be pretty damn surprised, Nick, if he doesn't make the 53 as a UDFA.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. Morris in the interview talking about Kobe Bryant being the most famous undrafted free agent ever. Even his kids know who he was. So, yeah, they a lot of times with those undrafted free agent types, it is recruiting. It's always such a mad dash to get those guys in there, and teams put in a lot of legwork to make sure you get those guys. I will be curious, at some point, Scott, if they ever expand the draft, more rounds, we can get more ad revenue, more commercials if we had 3 more rounds. But it used to be.
No, they'll just make it take longer. That's all.
Yeah. I heard they're talking about making it quicker. Right. They're putting in like something. Goodell was talking about that. But
that must mean they're not getting the ad revenue on day 3.
Yeah, I'm probably something like that. But I digress. Also, the East Coast stuff, like how late. I mean, you're on East Coast, like how late it goes. But yeah, no, Kobe Bryant, they've got a pathway there. Again, he's an undrafted free agent in a class that overall is probably a little down this year. Just the overall draft class, the perception would be it's a little down. So an undrafted, what does that mean? But anybody can come in and make a chance. I mean, Broncos fans, Broncos country, Chris Harris Jr., also from Kansas, came in undrafted free agent and was one of the best cornerbacks in football for 5-7 years. So anything can happen. And we're keeping an eye on Kobe Bryant because there's an obvious pathway towards playing time.
I think I remember this way, and I might be wrong, but I think John Settle, running back Atlanta Falcons, I always said, what's made me mad about this soft version of the Atlanta Falcons we've seen lately is we grew up, even when we were bad, we could run the ball. We had William Andrews, we had Gerald Riggs, Lynn Kane. I think John Settle was the first undrafted free agent to rush for 1,000 yards in the NFL, was what I remember his kind of claim to fame was on that. So, yeah, they're definitely out there. But he said, Raheem Morris, he said 11% of starters right now are undrafted free agents. So, of this group, you could definitely get potential starters out of that. And Kobe Bryant absolutely has a chance to come in. I mean, he's competing against Mike Hughes. No offense to Mike Hughes, but Mike Hughes is basically an average veteran cornerback. He's making pretty low money for a starting cornerback in the NFL. They're paying him what they think he's worth. The market is paying him what they think he's worth, which is not a lot. So the other part of that, he said, we did not draft an outside corner. So Kobe is going to be working in that spot, providing either depth or competition at outside corner for Mike Hughes, I believe, because we know AJ Terrell's locked in that spot.
Yeah.
Want to say hi to Curtis Case. This is Morning Scott, Nick, and Falcons Nation. And then Greg coming in with a super chat. That's a super chat. Shout out to our friends over at, I'm not sure what channel Big Country does that on, but it's funny. GQB Custom Kicks. Check out his channel, y'all. He does good work. Good morning, guys. Painting these Tuskegee Airmen custom Adidas and listen to the show. That's very cool. Yeah. I've flown over and into Tuskegee. I was in flight school at Auburn for a while and got to do some touch and goes over near there. But I didn't have the mental makeup to be a pilot in my early 20s. So now I talk football. Hope all is well for you. Appreciate the support, my friend. Hope things are doing good. Want to say hello to some more folks. Let's see here. Curtis is here. We said hello to Atlanta boy. Rusty's talking about the offseason. He says one of the reasons he loves MMA and UFC is there is no offseason. Some folks, especially if you have a spouse who doesn't particularly like football, would think there's no offseason in football either. Wait a minute. When's the game? The last game was 6 months ago. Y'all are still talking football today? Yeah, rookies showed up. We need to talk rookies. Next week, the veterans show up this week. There's like 1 month where nothing is really going on, and that's about July. And that's when you speculate about what else is going on. And frankly, even then, Nick, there's some roster moves going on. There could be some big ones going on in July.
Yeah, no, NFL has done a good job carving out and having a full year cycle. But the summertime, it does slow down a bit. We've entered the slow, unless you really don't want to have big news this time of year, because a lot of times it's somebody ending up with the popo or an injury. So you're hoping for no news is good news.
So speaking of big news that affects the Atlanta Falcons, did the Saints literally hit the lottery or what? Yeah. With Derek Carr saying, I'm going to retire. That is the best possible scenario other than him being healthy and playing really well. That's probably the best scenario because now their quarterback room is pretty scary. But if you're gonna be bad when Arch Manning is about to be draft eligible. If that's when you're gonna be bad. I mean, I think the Saints are not messing around. They're aiming for the 0-17 this year, and let's get the number 1 overall pick. But they cleared something like $30 million off the salary cap that they no longer owe Derek Carr because he retired. He's like, I'm not doing this. I've got enough money. I mean, he's made, I think, close to $200 million in his career. That good for him. Matt Ryan, and I'm not judging anybody on this. They can sit on IR and collect a check pretty easily. The reason Matt Ryan did not retire in his last, the year after, let me see if I can do this. He was just doing CBS. He had 1 year left on his contract. He wasn't going to play again, but he did not retire because he had another $20 million in guaranteed money. If he retired, he would have forfeited that. So Derek Carr, I mean, that's a kind of a shock move. And all of a sudden, the Saints look pretty good against the salary cap for the first time at this time of year, Nick.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with the draft pick this upcoming season, 2026 draft. Doesn't seem like right now, Scott, that Arch Manning is lined up to come out in 2026. Both Peyton and Eli did the full 4-year thing when they could have come out. They had influence on like Andrew Luck doing the 4-year thing too. And he's played so little. But you never know. With Arch Manning, things can, if you have a chance to be the number 1 overall pick, it's not often you see guys say, no, thanks. We'll wait a year. I think Andrew Luck's about the only one I can think of in recent memory. So you got other quarterbacks though. Next year's quarterback class right now looks good. Obviously, we have a full year of football. Things can change dramatically. But I really like the cat from South Carolina, Lenora Sellers. He is a freak athlete, big arm. I know a lot of people in the industry like Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. He can stick down there in Louisiana. I think his dad might have coached the Saints or something too. His dad's been a coach. You got Cade Klubnik out of Clemson, who's a former 5-star with a lot of talent. And Mendoza from Cal, now at Indiana. So this next year's quarterback crop looks pretty good for the Saints, even if Arch or Nico don't come out.
Yeah, which is good for them because, I thought at the Senior Bowl, I agreed with the Saints. I thought Tyler Shuck looked like the best quarterback there, but I'm watching him in a vacuum. I know zero about him. I'm just watching throwing on air, you're not allowed to touch him, this kind of stuff. I'm like, his arm looked good. I didn't know he was 26 years old. I hadn't seen the lowlights of him. He's got some severe accuracy problems. Spencer Rattler's a wild card. We liked him as a day 2 guy. I think they even got him day 3. But, a developmental guy, not somebody that they wanted to play and throw in there right away. And then who was the third coming in? There's kind of jokes about, would you send Cousins to the Saints? Yeah, if they footed the bill. I remember who it was. There was somebody on X, and his name has come up in here before, and I was like, I've never heard of that guy. I have now, thanks to y'all. Was like, would you send him to the Saints if they weren't willing to pay much money and you weren't getting much back? And the responses were as angry as they should have been. Why the hell would the Falcons do that? Why would we pay for the Saints quarterback? That's insane. No, I'm ready to move on from Kirk, but I wouldn't just send him to the Saints for nothing. No, hell no. Not just no, but hell no on that one. So if they came in and made you an offer you couldn't refuse, but why would they do that? Why would the Saints do that? The Saints are more interested, for me, in my opinion, of tanking for 2017. How old am I? For 2026 than they are in trying to compete for the 0-17. I think that's where the 17 came from, was the 0-17 on their Nick.
And they have 2 young quarterbacks that they want to figure out about. That's not a team that is it's a new regime. They don't need to save their skin right now with the head coach. Loomis has a lifelong contract there. He does stuff with another team too, right? He does multiple organization operations. So it's weird stuff with the Saints, but yeah, I think they'll go with the rookies this season and they'll be pretty bad. And I think the defense isn't very good either. One thing I do like about the Saints is that they've invested pretty well in the offensive line. The last 2 drafts, they got Banks and Fuaga there. So they have started to build some pillars there. So they're a team that is in transition. I saw somebody in the chat mention that we'll still end up losing a game. Throw out the records when it comes to divisional games.
Yeah.
Now, it is very possible.
And,
So
and
even if
again,
they're
this is the
terrible-
Falcons fan mentality. We are
Yeah.
the abused spouse.
Yep. Yeah.
Greg said, I appreciate the shout out, Greg. He says, if you're not checking out Falcons Content SI, then you're missing out. Yeah, this is, we do 2 podcasts a week here, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. But the si.com/NFL/Falcons or just falconsi.com. I just dropped that in the chat. That's where we're doing 5-6 stories a day. That's our daily content. This is as much fun. Jet Jones, thanks for the super. This came in right as we just started talking about it with the Saints situation at quarterback. He says, good morning, Scott and Nick, on this rainy day here in the Southeast. What are y'all thinking about the New Orleans quarterback situation? Right now, again, they'll see what they have. Let's throw Rattler out there. Let's throw Shuck out there. I think it's Shuck's job to lose. There's no reason to redshirt a guy without much experience in his age.
He was picked by this regime too, right? Spencer's from last coaching staff. So
yeah, that too. So I think it's Shuck's job to lose, but see what you've got. And if you go 2-15 and the number 1 overall pick, so be it. So be it. This is, to me, is all of those people that say the salary cap doesn't matter. The salary cap doesn't matter. Yes, it does eventually. And the Saints are declaring bankruptcy this year. They're wiping the slate clean, but they also had a rich uncle just die who just left them a whole bunch of money. The Derek Carr thing is unbelievably lucky for them to just help bail them out of that. Now, do they learn from that now that we're out of bankruptcy, or do we just go right back in and I just go get a bunch of new loans and new depreciating assets, a bunch of flashy new cars, or do you invest? We're really going off the rails on this one, aren't we, Nick?
Yeah.
Do we invest in something that's going to last a little bit longer? So I think the Saints are tanking. They're okay with that. Embrace it. Reset. Salary cap looks better all of a sudden, and they could have a number 1 pick and a need for a quarterback. But they'll throw Tyler Shuck out there, and if he ends up defying expectations, good for them. They got lucky.
Yep, taking in the Drew Lock range. So odds of hitting are not good. We say what you will about the NFL draft, but the teams are pretty good at identifying the haves or have-nots. Now, separating guys in their tiers, a little bit tougher, but you don't see franchise quarterbacks falling out of the first round left and right. Typically, they identify them. So we got Make You Fumble, Mad Scientist. Morning, everyone. Good to see you. I see that. We got Unbeatable 3210 saying good morning. Happy Monday to y'all. Hope you guys had a good Mother's Day. Red Swarm release the Archer. Oh yeah, Michael Penix. There you go. If that's what they call him, I like the Archer. That's a fun nickname.
We had a quarterback named Archer though, Dave Archer, and he still does the color analyst on the radio. So he's still there. That one mixes it up a little bit. That one's a little too close to somebody that's still here. But we'll see. I mean, again, if Michael Penix catches on, he can be whoever he wants to be. Right now, it's the legend of the do-rag. Philip, good to see you. Troy Green, how live are we? We're live. Oblivion Empire Jason, it's good to see you. He made it for the first time in a while. Michael, good to see you. The sunrise. Can't see the sun. I haven't seen the sun in 4 days. It's like I'm living in Ohio again. Good to see you as well. Alan, yep, still raining in Warner Robins. No, you look at the big weather and expand out. It just keeps pulling moisture out of the Gulf, and it just keeps spinning and dumping rain and dumping rain and dumping rain. Oh, the viral infection, John. I'm not sure which is worse. If you just broke a leg, doing something, wrecking a dragster, or at least that exactly what it is. This can be a little scarier. So God bless, man. I hope you're doing okay. Look at CK joining us at the crazy hour. Hello from Hawaii. Yes, it's 2:43 a.m. Rise up. You're up. I was up at 2:43, but it was walking to the bathroom and then going back to bed. So thank you for joining us this morning. Jeebus HC coming in. He says odds of Big Kirko going to the Aints. Zip. Unless they cut him. But at this point, it feels like you'd want to hang on to him to the trade deadline. At this point. But last week, I also said any type of prediction I've made with Kirk Cousins has been wrong. because the Falcons have not done a single thing that is logical is not necessarily the right word, but precedented. It's basically been there's been no precedent for how the Falcons have treated the quarterback situation. So you're used to saying, okay, these 100 other teams did it this way. I expect 101 to do it this way as well. The Falcons haven't. They've been the 101st team with regards to Kirk Cousins since the minute they signed him, JHC.
Yeah, again, we talked about the Saints. They're going to go with Shuck unless Spencer shocks them. And we'll see what happens with Kirk. I mean, maybe you guys can nudge Kirk a little bit and be like, hey, you see what Derek Carr just did? Be pretty cool if you did that too. You know, that might be awesome.
Yeah.
You've made a lot of money. That'd be cool. You know, you can keep the house. No hard feelings. We lost a draft pick for you. That'd be cool. Let's
we'll pay you your $10 million roster bonus for next year.
Yeah, it's all great. Just
because what happens, y'all, is basically that signing bonus money. You don't have to get it back. You don't have to take it back. But any guaranteed money or I think even the signing bonus, it basically all just goes away. It is absolutely magical if these guys retire. It is, if you are in a bad contract, it's unbelievable how lucky the Saints just got that this is what Derek Carr decided to do, because he has every right to sit back and collect his money while sitting on IR, unable to play. He has every right to do that, and he didn't. In fact, the NFLPA is probably a little pissed off at him, Nick, for doing that, because not everybody can afford to do that, and he just set a precedent of, no, I'm giving up literally like $30 million by saying I'm retiring instead of saying, oh, I'll go be a CBS analyst for a year, but I'm not retiring. That's what I mean. And again, I'm not judging Matt Ryan. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but that's two of the more recent examples of this happening.
Yeah.
So crazy stuff. Shy Boogie coming in here. He says, we need a good center. What do you guys think we will do? I think you've got a ready-made center involved in I don't know, in Ryan Newsel. And in fact, he hasn't signed yet. They keep talking about him as being the guy. So I guess it's just a matter of putting pen to paper. Oh, he's out of town or something. But Ryan Newsel started 8 games last year. He started several times in this league. He was 5-1 during the stretch before Kirk Cousins get hit as the starter because Drew Dahlman got hurt last year pretty early. The national media has ignored that completely. They didn't get a center, blah, blah, blah. Well, they had a center, and he played a lot last year, and they won a lot of games when he was the center last year. So when it comes to where am I spending my limited resources this year I don't have a whole lot of salary cap money, and I only had 5 draft picks. I wasn't going after center. There were other places I wanted to spend first, and if the next two places I would spend before center would be defensive tackle and corner. Center's still far down on my list of priorities for where I want to invest resources in this team, because I think Ryan Newsel is at least average. And they're not average at all 22.
No, they're not. And we'll need to see what the entire offensive line looks like in theory, because I'll come back to it. Most important thing for this team is keeping Michael Penix healthy and upright and running the football and not putting him in obvious drop back situations if you can. And a lot of that revolves around the offensive line. But as you said, Newsel played last season. He was fine. He was competent. And he's not a difference maker out there. As far as team building on the offensive line goes, I think right tackle or the tackle position's more on the docket than center. But center's a short-term concern, so I get it. And Dahlman got paid money that you guys weren't going to be able to pay or want to pay. You can't really use the tag on a center because for some God knows reason, the entire offensive line tag is 1. So it's all based on the top tackle markets. You're not paying that to a center. And you didn't have the money to really compete in free agency for his services. So is what it is. You have the short-term guy. If it's a problem, you'll reevaluate and get somebody in there next year. But I think you got at least you got somewhat of a high floor with Newsel, a known quantity who was out there last year. So you kind of know what you're getting, even if it's not significant, masterful, or anything like that. That's okay. And there's a reason that center is the lowest paid position on offense, Scott. I mean, is running back paid lower? It's close between center and running back. We're not going to count fullback.
I think running backs are making more at the higher end now.
Yeah.
It's getting close. If I look at couple of the deals that have come out, you're knocking on the door. You got $20 million running backs. You don't have $20 million centers still.
No.
And again, I think the running back position is becoming cool again. Same with inside linebacker. And same with tight end. You know, it's like it's 1980s and 90s all over again. Do y'all believe the hype was Zack Harris? So my initial reactions were doing this live was, wait, who? So are we talking about Zack Harrison, the defensive lineman for the Falcons? I mean, I don't know what hype is being said. So it's one of those phrases like, oh, that guy's overrated. Well, what do you rate him? You know, that's a relative statement. Because, again, I ranked football players forever and ever and ever. And someone say, oh, that guy's overrated. And I remember someone saying that about Jimmy Clausen. That guy's overrated. I'm like, well, what are you rating him? Oh, someone says he's the next LeBron James. I'm like, well, that's stupid. But he absolutely, I believe he is the number one quarterback in this high school recruiting class. So, you know, what's your perspective? So what's the hype about Zack Harrison? I think Zack Harrison can be a key piece to this defensive line. You know, we've talked about there's no 330-pounder in the middle, but there's 2 305 guys in the middle, and then you've got 3 or 4 reserves at that size, and then you've got a couple of 275, 285 defensive ends that I can put bodies on the line. I can put 4 guys up front and help clog the line of scrimmage. And now I got speed at linebacker too. I think I saw Kevin Knight say something about, you know, edge incoming for Zack. No way. That lasted about 2 games, and then his hand was rightly in the dirt, and they said, why don't you slide inside? Why don't you put on a little more weight and slide inside? So I think Zack Harrison can be a very key depth rotation piece on a 6 to 7, 8-man rotation on the defensive line, whether they're going 3-man down or 4-man down. So I think he can be a good player. But, you know, no, I don't expect him to be a terror coming off the edge. You just invested a lot in speed guys for that, Nick.
I do think that early downs, you could see him at some 7 technique or 5 technique stuff, depending on the offenses you're going against and what you're trying to accomplish in that specific down and distance. Because of the 2 edge rushers you drafted are smaller, lighter, not really necessarily ones that you expect in base downs, but it's going to depend team to team. So, yeah, he's one that versatile. I wish he had a little bit more ankle flexion, you know, could turn the corner, a little bit stiff coming off the edge, but power player all the same. And again, has a role and is a completely different body type than some of these other pass rushers edges that you have on this unit. So hopefully they can find a way to maximize him and get him the ability to wreck some B gaps on opposing offenses.
Maurice has a great question here. You know, how does a remaining contract work if you retire? Nick, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I probably will be on some of it. You actually have the right to recoup the signing bonus that you gave that person. You have the right to.
You can go after it.
The Saints had guaranteed salary built in, that it was cheaper to say, keep the signing bonus we've already paid you and retire, please. Yes, please retire. Now, the Falcons, they owe Kirk Cousins $27.5 million guaranteed this year and $10 million next year. They've paid him $50 already. If he were to retire this year, they'd get back $37.5 million in guaranteed money, and they would actually have the right to go back and get $37.5 million from their signing bonus. And in this case, they probably would. They probably would try and go after that. So they can get $75 million back, because all they've paid him so far in salary was like the $25 million from last year was part of the salary, I believe. But the dead money would shoot forward for the signing bonus that's already been paid, but you've got the right to go after that money if somebody retires on you. And I think one of the big problems, I think the Saints, or not the Saints, I think the Lions did that to Barry Sanders, and it was pretty contentious at
Calvin
the time.
Johnson. They
did Calvin too at the time.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. Any guaranteed money, that the 37.5, you wouldn't pay him 27.5 this year. You wouldn't pay him 10 next year. The dead money that you've already paid him would accelerate to right now, which would be $37.5 million. But you have the right to go back and get it if they quit football. That's why they don't do it. Guys don't do that. Nobody does this. Nobody does what Derek Carr just did. They do what Matt Ryan did. They sit out a year until they're out of contract, and say, I'm going to retire. I mean, Matt Ryan was in the booth, but he hadn't retired. Yes, he had, but he hadn't officially announced it because he would have given up all that guaranteed money that he had earned through blood, sweat, and tears, frankly, as far as I'm concerned. So
that signing bonus is prorated out the duration of the entire contract. So all that money is given up front, even though from a accounting tool, it's spread out through the duration of the contract. Sometimes they can even add void years to move some of that signing bonus on additional seasons. But you have roster bonuses that become guaranteed at certain dates of the league year that would become null and void, that you wouldn't be on the hook for anymore in the future. So those are areas where I think a lot of the savings comes outside of the straight up, base package stuff that's not guaranteed, that comes off the books. But I think there is guarantees that do not go into effect because the player is essentially waiving the right to them because you don't hit those markers on the contract timeline wise. So I think that's the simplest way I can understand it and explain it. We got Eric.
I want to come back to Eric on this one because, people are talking about, and I've hit on this. In fact, we have hit on this. What would you do with the players you're doing? Talking about Harrison. Word is he's moving back to edge and people are hyped about it. No, he's not. He's not doing a stand-up edge in a 3-4 defense. No freaking way. He's got to compete with D'Angelo Malone, Arnold Ebiketie, Leonard Floyd, Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr. 5 guys, and you'll notice a very different body type. And as let me see, someone else just put in here, they're being called big ends. It's what Harry says. Him and Dorless are getting called big ends now. Well, sure. He's a little too light as a defensive end in a 3-man front, just like Grady Jarrett was too small to be a nose guard in a 3-man front. But as we've said a zillion times, if you run 4 across and I run Morgan Fox and Zack Harrison at end, yes, that makes perfect sense. Well, are we running a 4-3 now, or are we running a 3-4? Yes. And that's why we said don't get caught up on scheme. Oh, because it's going to change down by down by down, series by series by series, the type of packages you're out there. Zack Harrison's best position right now is basically an end in a 4-3. In a 4-man front, lined up over the tackle, that's his best position right now. And he can be a very good player out there against the run. Taquan Graham's the same way. He's not quite quick enough to be a 3-4 end. He's not big enough to be a 3-4 defensive tackle, but he's a pretty good 4-3 defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. So I think you'll see more 4-man fronts in running situations, and Zack Harrison and Morgan Fox absolutely fit that personnel scheme.
And I pulled up, not to get too coach speak, Scott, but if you wanted to put it on the screen, the different techniques. So when you're talking about stuff like the techniques, so you have the gaps up top, the offensive line with tight end, and where those guys line up on the defensive side depends on what their technique is. Mm-hmm. So for Zack Harrison, you're probably expecting anywhere from 7 technique and some heavy, obvious rundown stuff, your classic 4-3 line, but a lot of 5 to 4-eye as well. Maybe some reduction down to 3 technique in
passing situations. Then you can go light. In 3rd and 12, I'm okay if he's down as a 3.
Yep, exactly.
And if you're listening to this after the fact, we apologize. We just pulled up a graphic that says defensive D-tech alignment. So when you hear a 0 tech, he's lined up head up nose on the center. A 3 tech is lined up on the outside shoulder of the guards. Those are your typical defensive tackles. 9s are wide. That's where you put your edges. Your edges are the ones that are 6-7-9 or 6-7-9 techniques out there, and maybe at best a 5 in this unless this lineup. He's not going to be a 6-7-9 guy unless it's to rush the passer. Sometimes they'll run out there. I found something I like better, but on a day-to-day basis, 5, 4, and 4-eye is where we're going to see is the best place for Zack Harrison.
Yeah, I do though. Like my concern has been the edge setting with the guys that they have, and I think against, like, let's say you're going up against the Eagles, right? Like we might see some more Zack Harrison 7 technique, Fox 7 technique stuff, just to get a little bit more punch at the edge and length and mass. But there's when I say the techniques there, those are what I've been talking about. So if that makes sense. I also see Troy Green coming in here at 6:06 saying our defensive line coach basically said no more 2 gapping. It's 1-on-1, beat your man and cause havoc. So they're talking getting root doubles, and our outside linebacker is going to have to be fast to the edge, live by the sword, die by the sword. Your defense, and I think that's that's good and all, but it's predicated based on the body types that you have up front. You don't have length cloggers up front. You don't have pocket crunchers with sledgehammer hands at edge. It's not really a team that's built for two gapping and reactiveness. So it is it's going to be a little bit more volatile. Like last season, the one thing the Falcons did well defensively was not give up explosive plays that came at the
for a while. Then they broke when they basically had their spirit broken from playing on their heels for so long.
Yes.
Then the big plays came too.
Yep. But this year, I'm going to expect a much more attack-oriented front, which is good. I mean, I think it's going to create a little bit more volatility on the back end, Scott, but also hopefully comes with turnovers and sacks, which EPA analysis shows that those are massive in swinging plays and getting off the field and drives. So again, your defensive personnel you have is much more penetration, one gap shooting centric. So we'll see what that looks like against the run. We'll see what that looks like with big passes this season. But yeah, the personnel you have, the two body types you had at edge, all scream, pin your ears back. We're going to be sending bodies at the solution. How creative can they be in their pressure looks? And do you actually have guys who are winning up front? Can you do enough on first and second down to really unleash that? It's questions we won't know until we have a 6-game sample size, Scott. And even then, it'll still be week by week.
Yeah, right now, this is a quicker, lighter defense. Rook is quick as cat. I mean, his RAS score is at like a 9.9 or a 10. Morgan Fox is a little bit undersized. And people talk about him as an inside pass rusher. I don't necessarily see him now. I think him as being an end out here for this. So, again, if my game plan is to stop the run, I want 4 guys down. And you've got them. You've got plenty of bodies to do that. Right now, if it's short yardage situation or whatnot, I'm probably going to see a lot of LaCale London right now. He's the only guy that's over 320 pounds. But I can jam bodies into that situation on a typical 1st and 10. Then they'll adjust. Can we stop it? Can we go a little bit lighter and a little bit faster? And are we still stopping the run? But people have, the question comes up: if you have to stop the run, what are you going to do? I'm going to add some bodies. I've got them. I can run a good rotation of 6 to 7 guys that are between 280 and 300 pounds. I've got them. I can run 4 of those across the line, and I've got speed at linebacker too, and I've got some pretty good safeties. I can stop the run if I have to. The question is then what do you give up on the backside? But if you're not, I'd like to find out by stopping the run. Last year they didn't stop anything. It was 2nd and 2 all day long, whether it was a quick dump off because you're 10 yards off the line of scrimmage or a 6-yard run at the middle because you're only got 3 guys on the line of scrimmage and you're running 5 wide gaps. Yeah. They didn't stop anything. So we didn't find out. The personnel is there to sell out and stop something. If we have to stop the run, okay, the bodies are there to do that. We have to stop the pass. Okay, well, we've got the speed out there to blitz our lights out. So it's going to be a lot more. The defense couldn't get any worse as far as, again, how they were schemed up and to watch. It was awful to watch. At the end of the game and how you hate watching a prevent defense, that's what we were watching in the first quarter. So It's going to be – Ulbrich has a lot more tools at his disposal, and I think he'll use them.
I will say, Scott, for me personally, nothing is more frustrating to watch than being out physicaled. I know the conservative stuff, it really does suck to watch, but like if you're getting out there and they're getting 7 yards every time on the ground and they're just pushing you back and like you tackle the guy at the hole and then he drags you 4 more yards constantly, that is the most frustrating for me because you're getting like they're telling you what they're doing and you can't do anything. I'm not saying that the Falcons will be this season at all, but that's going to be the big question for the defense. Are you doing enough on those early downs? Are you preventing leak yardage up front where you can get into the sexy, fun stuff? And that's going to be the question for the defense this year for me. Again, we talk about the nose tackle stuff, but even the body types that you have, in theory, like you can mix and match stuff, but does the actual chemistry and the plan make sense? Is it matching the coverage on the back end? It's all theory until we see it on the field. But that's the big question for the defense this year for me is, are they doing enough to stop the run to get to the fun stuff?
Yeah, there's going to be more big plays given up, but there's going to be more big plays made. There's going to be more plays made. I'll take that trade-off. Again, it's one thing to be bad. it's one thing to be bad, boring, and predictable. It's okay. The live by the sword, die by the sword. Did the Minnesota Vikings advance in the playoffs and win a Super Bowl? No. Did I like watching their defense? Yes, I did. I really enjoy. I'd much rather watch their defense. It was just, this is still entertainment for us.
Yeah,
it's fun. When I stop having fun, I stop watching. So hopefully y'all are having fun. We got a lot of folks in here this morning. Over 200 watching right now. So appreciate y'all. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, because sometimes we go live when big news happens, and I'm going to make sure you get your alerts. But we're just about out of here. One of the other things I wanted to get into is some of the news that came out over the weekend leaked. We got schedules this week, and right now one of the schedule leaks that I believe was that the Falcons will be playing the Colts in Germany. So I rolled my eyes a little bit because the Falcons won some sort of marketing rights in Germany, and all of a sudden I see the Pittsburgh Steelers sign a deal with Borussia Dortmund. Well, Borussia Dortmund is the second biggest club in Germany, soccer club in Germany, and they're awesome. They're yellow and black, and if you ever go to Germany and you're like, I want to see what European football is all about, go to a Borussia Dortmund game. But playing the Colts in Germany, I think, should be pretty cool. Those international games are fun. Yeah.
I'm German, Scott. A lot of German. My grandpa grew up on a German-speaking farm, so still have some roots there. But Jimmy's saying he's going to make the trip to Germany. Should be cool. Yeah, Germany, beautiful country, a lot of fun. If you can get a chance to see like Dortmund versus like Schalke, that's a fight. That's a good game. So yeah, Kira,
it's
good to see
a people's game over there. It's blue collar. They have, the clubs are individually owned. They're not franchises. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching one. They're rowdy as hell, and it's fun to watch. But they were putting game times in inconvenient time slots, like Friday afternoons for TV. Well, we're used to that now. Mm-hmm. But the Germans, we can't get off our jobs and go to these games. So they held a silent protest for the first 20 minutes of the game. 80,000 people. This is a huge stadium for soccer in Europe. 80,000 people for the first 20 minutes of the game were silent. That is so cool. It's the people's game still over there in Europe. But even if it's expensive and flashy as gotten, Kiera, I love it. Please not in November. And Jimmy says, I'm going over to Germany. I've never been to Germany. I've been over to Europe a lot, but I've never been to Germany. So maybe we need to get over, Nick.
It's a good time. No, yeah. One of my best friends lives out in Augsburg. It's a beautiful spot. Hamburg is also really, really cool on the other side. And beautiful, beautiful country. My wife and I, after we finished grad school, we did 6 weeks in Europe. So jumping around with a bunch of Aussies. Good time, man. They can drink you and cuss you under the table. Let me tell you,
I don't need to take that challenge.
Yeah, they're crazy. They're a good
I haven't
bunch.
had a drink in almost 30 years. And that little thing on my shoulder says, you can drink more than them. No, you can't. You idiot. No. You end up in a gutter. That's not drinking more.
No.
Yeah. Handling it.
They're different. They're a different breed. But I will say, traveling abroad as Americans, when you aren't the Americans anymore, right? When you're with a bunch of loud Aussies, that's nice to kind of be, hidden that way. It was a good time.
So Jet Jones coming back in with a super appreciate. Unless we get any burning topics coming in, this will probably wrap it up for us. But he says, do you think Tyler Allgeier will be traded? Pittsburgh, maybe. I think that's who you meant by TA, obviously. No, I wrote this up in February. Could Tyler Allgeier be trade bait? And I basically went through all the reasons why not, especially not before the draft, because this was a very deep draft class and people would rather I'd rather draft a guy that I can get for 4 years. Well, we don't want to lose him for nothing. Well, neither does the team trading for him. That's kind of the point. But now maybe you didn't get your running back. Maybe you didn't get the guy that you wanted to get, or maybe you wanted another one. His trade value has now gone up, I believe. His value will be highest before the trade deadline. As a team is making a run, they think they're contenders, and one player, we need to send the Falcons a 4th round pick for this guy because he's the difference between us winning 27-24 and losing 27-24. This running back could be the difference. Then a rental becomes better. That said, for that to happen, things would have to go really wrong for the Falcons. Yeah. So the Falcons are hoping they're not in that position. Because what they could get for Tyler Allgeier right now, he is worth more to them helping them win football games.
Yep.
That's how I've said it for a while on Tyler Allgeier. So no, I do not think he will be traded. If he gets traded, it will be in October before the trade deadline, and the Falcons will be in a heap of trouble.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. I was going to say it's probably the trade deadline, unless somebody's really desperate and calls you before the start of the season and offers something. But even then, are you taking away an asset like that from Michael Penix? Even though you have Bijan, you want both those guys if you can. Yeah, there's plenty of snaps for both those guys. So unless somebody blows you away with an offer, like if somebody offers you a top 100 pick, it's like, well, like we love Allgeier, but it's a top 100 pick. Like for a running back, it might be hard to push that one away. But you're probably right. It's the deadline, and he's only really available if things have gone south and you guys are sellers at the deadline.
No, the scrimmage yards, Bijan Robinson was 4th overall in scrimmage yards last year, and he had 61 receptions and his carries, and he had 304. So he had 365 touches last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that workload to go up. I want it to be more efficient. I want him to get more. I'd actually like his touches to be around 300. I'd actually like it to go down and him to get more bang for each one of his touches. You can't do that without a good number 2. I don't want Tyler Allgeier going anywhere. And I think he will make at least double his career earnings in free agency next year. And there's no reason why the Falcons couldn't bring him back. If they still like him and the tread is low, thanks to Bijan Robinson, the tread is low on his tires. I think he'll be somewhere between I want to say $5 and $7 million running back at this point, Nick. My initial reaction was 4 to 6. I want to bump that up even a little bit. I think the Falcons could probably afford that if they wanted to. But would Tyler Allgeier say, I want to go somewhere where I get 300 touches? Then it'll be up to him and he'll earn it. And if you do, then you're playing the comp game again if you're able to get a comp pick for him.
Yeah, I see anywhere from, it's a really big drop off here, Scott, but you have Ramondre Stevenson making $9 million a year, Chuba Hubbard 8.3, DeAndre Swift 8 million, Tony Pollard 7.25. Tony Pollard was
all right. So 5.7 is not conservative at all.
I would say
it is conservative. It's not overshooting. I said that completely backwards.
Yeah. I think anywhere from 6.5 to 9 is it, and that's not including a inflation of the cap as well.
And
so
I'll be so happy for him. I will be absolutely thrilled for him, and then hope he rushes for 200 yards and a loss if he comes against the Falcons again. But
the one issue with retaining him, Scott, is that there's only so much money to go around still, and you do have an impending. At some point, you have to look on the horizon and be like, okay, Bijan's going to have to get paid at some point coming up.
Drake's money will go up, but his salary cap number could actually go down on his next contract based from his 5th year option.
Yeah.
his first year of his extension, his cap number could actually decrease. You're getting some of that Cousins money back, but shoot, you're going to have Cousins on the books for at least 3 years, probably 4. And then you're into Michael Penix's 5th year option. And if he becomes the guy you think he's going to be, then he's going to be a $50 million guy. So, no, I don't think you're trading Tyler Allgeier. I don't think the return on him will be good enough for the value that he brings to winning football games, because he is a key role player on this one.
Yep, exactly. So
Falcon Dog, what am I wrong about? I always like something like this. I'm wrong all the time. So which one am I wrong about? So
maybe saying I'm wrong about the money that Tyler's going to get. I would expect 6.5 to 9, but he could get injured, right? Things can change.
But again, the tread on him is low. His best friend is Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
And as Kirk, this is what I'm wrong. Kirk will not be on the cap for 4 years in a universe. Okay, let's do the math on this. Year 1, it's already happened. This is year 2. If they cut him next year and then spread that against 2 years, they take his dead cap and they spread that across 2 years. That's 3 and 4. Done. See how easy that was? So if they keep him this year and aren't able to trade him and pick it up, then that happens. At the very least, even if they do trade him, they take his whole cap hit and they spread it across 2 years. That's 3 and 4. So I don't think I'm wrong on that. I think
it could be
why take
could be $4.
$30 million of dead next year if you could just make it 15 and 15 in years 3 and 4. So that's how that works. You can spread dead cap across 2 years. That's 3 and 4.
Yeah, if he gets moved this season, it would be 3 years still.
Right.
But
if he gets moved this season, which
we don't know.
But right now it doesn't look like that's happening.
Yep. Yeah, we don't know. So we'll see. Overall, I mean, again, mini camp. Excited to hear them talk about Watts, talk about Walker a little bit as well, Kobe Bryant. The big thing, though, is everybody, it's just orientation right now, right? Walkthroughs, orientation. You're getting the lay of the land, how everything works, how they want to run practice. The smiles kind of go away. Like, oh, yeah, we're lucky to have you. We're on the field now. You're doing drills. I don't know if you saw the Eric Bieniemy coaching drills with the Bears running backs, but, it's business time. It's time to work. It's get into it. So getting the rookies all lined up, and you got the veterans OTAs coming up here before too long too. So yeah, it's going to be fun. And again, the big thing we can talk about it, and it's a lot of fun to speculate and talk about the rookies. Big thing is stay out of freaking trouble and stay out of the trainer's room if you can. If you do those two things, successful offseason all around.
Yeah, Nick, you get going. Say goodbye. I'm going to answer a couple more questions that have come in, and we'll see you on Wednesday. So thanks for being here, Nick. We'll talk to you later. I want to hit Chris Walker, and then Denver Luke just came in, and then I might call it a day as well. But talking about the money, that's too much, Scott, right there. Let me back me out just a little bit. Talking about Tyler Allgeier's contract, I said my initial thought on him was 4 to 6, and then looking at comparable running backs, that's per year, 4 to 6 million per year in this one. So Nick's saying based on what other people are doing, $6 to $9 million per year on that one. So that's where he's coming in as far as what he thinks Tyler Allgeier will make next year. So again, his contract over his first 4 years was $4 million. I firmly believe he at least doubles his money in the first year of his next contract, and I'm super happy for him. I don't know about y'all. I love watching Tyler Allgeier play football. I'm going to be a Tyler Allgeier fan no matter where he plays. I love the way he plays the game. I love the way he's conducted himself. I love that dude. And I'm going to be happy for him when he gets his bag on that one. Denver Luke saying goodbye to got a chance to say goodbye to Nick, but he says, "Hey boys, coming in late. Was in the hospital from Friday morning. Good Lord. Y'all need to stop that. John is in the hospital now with a viral infection. Said Sunday afternoon, they sent me home early on Thursday morning for that jaw surgery. Said, you want to get that done when you were young. So glad to see it. I'm doing a lot better now. Been eating more now. Good. I'm glad you are doing better." And Falcon Dog says, "I mean, sure, you can add void years. Just doubt that they will want that narrative to continue, that we're still feeling the effects of that signing." You can't just add void years, Falcon Dog. You don't have this right. In order to add void years. So if I cut a guy right now and I do it as a post-June guy, let's say I still owe Kirk $100 million, just to make this easy math. I owe Kirk $100 million in guaranteed money in the next from previous signing bonuses. Okay. Let's say I paid him $100 million on a 5-year deal. The signing bonus counts against the salary cap for each of those 5 years. 20 million, 20 million, 20 million, 20 million, 20 million. If I cut him after 1 year, if he's gone, I have an $80 million dead cap hit that I have paid him already, because I've already paid him $100 million. I can't get that money back. And now I can't spread it across the 5 years of his contract because he's no longer under contract with my team. So I have an $80 million dead cap hit. If I do that after June 1st, I can take that dead cap hit and spread it across 2 years. So therefore, even though I cut him after his first season, he is on my salary cap as dead money for 3 seasons. So if you take on a dead cap hit after 2 years, which is what it looks like is going to happen right now if they keep him as a backup, and cut him next year, they can take what they still owe him in dead money, which I think will be about went from $25 to $35 million in dead money, and they will spread that dead money across 2026 and 2027. Or they could take all 35 of it in one season. But why take all 35 of it in 2027 if I could just spread it out in over 2 seasons? I could do 17 and a half and 17 and a half, or 15 and 20 or whatnot. So when I say Kirk Cousins, if he is not moved before this season is over, he will probably be on the Falcons' books as dead cap for 3 to 4 years. That is 100% accurate if they spread that money across 2 years. They didn't do it with Matt Ryan. They did it with Julio Jones. With Matt Ryan, they bit the bullet and took all the money in 2022. They didn't spread it across 2 years. They said, we're not going to be very good. We want to eat it now. And we want to come out of this with free and clear of Matt Ryan's contract in 2023. They could do that. They absolutely could do that. They did it in 2022, so they'd have all the money in 2023. It was a little bit bigger chunk of change. They don't have to, though. It was a little bit surprising. With Julio Jones, they spread it across 2 seasons. They spread his dead cap across 2 seasons. With Deion Jones, they spread it across 2 seasons. So if they decide to take Kirk's dead money and spread it across 2 years, he will be on the books for 4 seasons. On that note, y'all, let me double check here real quick, make sure I didn't miss any burning topics, but we're going to get out of here. It's been about an hour. We'll be back on Wednesday. Hopefully we'll see some sunshine. It'll dry out and get some grass growing. Appreciate y'all being here. Some of the veterans report. We will have schedule release day. We'll have some leaks that happen before then, so we'll talk about those on Wednesday morning, and then we'll write up our takeaways from the schedule. And, maybe we'll start doing. We need to do a meet and greet here. We got this community's gotten to be a decent size. We need to get together and put some names to some faces. Like to meet some of y'all. On that note, we're out here. Thanks for being here, everybody. Want to say thanks again to Jet Jones, JHC, Denver Luke, Greg, and Double Greg on the Custom Kicks. Check out his channel. Y'all have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Wednesday.